All right, welcome back to this pencil puzzle setting mini-series. I'm setting now a Yajilin puzzle. Again, I'm going to set it in Penpa and then probably put it in PuzzLink at the end. If you want the full intro to the intention of this series and what I'm creating these puzzles for, that's in the first video where I made the Heiwake puzzle. Let's try now and make a Yajilin puzzle. A Yajilin puzzle involves drawing a loop in the grid. And so you're going to have these little arrow type clues. In the grid, you're going to have to draw a loop. And so you're also going to have to shade some cells. So this is a hybrid of shade some cells, draw a loop. Okay. And so here are the rules. So the loop cannot branch or cross itself. Shaded cells can't be orthogonally adjacent. Cells within numbers or question marks cannot be shaded and are not part of the loop. So exclude cells can't. And a number indicates the amount of shaded cells in the direction given. So I should say here, I should say here at the beginning, just to be clear, the loop goes through all remaining cells that you don't shade, just to make that clear. And so here is an example of what that might look like. And again, the arrow here, this 2 is telling you, hey, you're shading 2 cells in this direction. This is telling me, hey, I'm shading 0 cells in this direction. Okay, so I've again got a 10 by 10 grid here. In Penpa, I have figured out the way that you make these arrows is by going to arrow in the number section. Let's start at the top left with some sort of clue. And so I'm going to mark, I don't know what clue it's going to be yet, but I'm going to put a clue here. And now the reason why I'm doing that is because it's actually going to give me a lot of loop for free. Namely, it's going to give me all of this loop for free, no matter what this clue is. And the reason for that is that if I were to shade this cell to omit it from contemplation, by the way, I'm going to put a question mark here just to remind myself that this is going to be a clue. And not just so that I don't confuse it with a cell I have shaded. If I were to shade this cell, or maybe dark gray this cell, now this cell can't have loop in it either because it would be a dead end. And so whatever this clue is, the whole reason why I have done this is to say, okay, all of this now has to be part of the loop. Okay. Now, we probably are not going to do most of this or probably won't make the final version in Penpa because this is not really a platform for solving Yajilin. But we'll sort of mark the cells that we know for sure are on the loop as green, even if I don't know which way they go. Okay, so now I would like to put a clue here. Arrow there with a 2. That says that 2 of these cells are shaded. So again, this is going to be light gray because it's a clue. Now, there's a couple things here that are automatic. So one of them is the same logic that around this corner I couldn't have any shaded cells is also going to tell me I can't shade either of these cells, because if I do shade either of these cells, it's going to create a dead end. So immediately these aren't shaded, and so I know what the line through them looks like. And I can't create a mini loop, so I actually get sort of all of this like that. But also, where are the 2 shaded cells here? They can only be in these 2 cells. And the reason they can only be in these 2 cells, maybe I should make it like that. I don't know, that looks aggressive. Is because if I put them any closer than that, well, they can't go next to each other. But if I put them one apart, I also create a dead end. And I like trying for this kind of intro puzzle to have a sort of logical theme, and so avoiding creating dead ends seems like a good logical theme here. So all of that is within the loop in some capacity or another. Okay. And so now, having done that, it now sort of seems natural to put a 1 in this row to now reward the fact that we know that none of these things contain loops. So I'm going to do that as my clue here. I'm going to get rid of the question mark, put an arrow pointing this way, and a 1. And so that is going to force that cell to be shaded, which is going to make that a corner. It's going to make this cell be unshaded. That cell be unshaded. And it's actually going to force this up here now. And now this is going to continue down this side, again, to avoid making a mini loop. Let's see. Kind of contemplating something running up this side. But I am not sure. Making this cell shaded would create like a corridor, and it's always nice to have corridors. How about this column? Can't quite take advantage of that column yet. Well, I can just place a clue here. I like that. I'll place a clue there. I don't have to specify what the clue is yet. And that's like one of the keys to setting pencil puzzles, is that you don't have to specify for yourself what the clue is. You can just say, hey, I'm going to put a clue here, and then whatever happens, happens. But the reason I'm doing that is that it lets me create this little corridor where there must be some loop connection. And I'm actually going to do the same thing with a clue over here, I think. I don't know what the clue is going to be, but that'll force this sort of connection through here, because now this is sort of a one-way only area. Should make life a little bit nicer. Okay. Now that we've got that, we've got this sort of areas for future clues. It'd be nice if we could make this cell green. Or indeed not green. Because I could make it definitely not green, actually, if I make a clue cell here. So what I'm noticing here is I could never shade this cell, because it would turn this into some quite horrible dead end. And that's sort of been our theme so far. So I'm wondering if now I am supposed to put a clue going this direction that says that one of these cells is shaded, so that it's definitely not that one, and it's that one. That might work well. So we'll make that gray. One shaded cell over here, and so now if you pay close attention, that one shaded cell can't be here, because now this cell's unshaded and it's a dead end. So we'll make it that. And now it's over here. And in fact, it actually has to bend around this corner because of the fact that there's no other way for life to continue in this direction. Okay, and so now looking at something like a 2 going up here, but that actually does not work. Continuing in this theme, let's make this a 1 pointing to the left. So again, if this were the shaded cell, then this would be a dead end. So we can't make that the shaded cell. So we're obligated to make this the shaded cell. And again, that pulls the line like that through the corner. Definitely have that being part of our loop. Now, also, both of these cells now have to be in the loop as long as there's no clues here, which I can guarantee by just not putting any clues there. Because if either of these cells were to be out, the other would be a dead end. So, in fact, actually, we can go ahead and just fill in some line like that as well. Which is fun. Okay. See, I kind of wouldn't mind a 3 running across here and just shade all 3 of these as a reward for this, because it brings it from lots of degrees of freedom to none. So that makes it a good sort of reward here if I make this a 3. Provided that this doesn't break, of course, which is always a possibility. Okay, so we get not there. Get green in all of those cells. Okay, so we'll get a line there, get a line there, get a line here. This will continue down. This will continue down to avoid a mini loop. We can green all of those things. Okay, that looks good to me. Okay, let's do a clue now up this side. Oops, not there. No, no, no. A clue up this side with a 2. Okay, and now, so that seems like it could be a couple of things. But the thing I want someone to notice is it can't actually be that or that. Oh, but it can't be the thing I actually wanted it to be either. Never mind. This is going to force a dead end over here. Never mind. Okay, well, let's not make it a 2. Uh, so the thing is, as soon as I put a clue there, this automatically becomes black, which makes this green. Which is going to create a line going through here, making these green as well. Do I want to make this a 1 or a 0 or something pointing up here? I don't know. I don't know that any of that really advances the world in the way that I might prefer. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo this 2 trick, but fancy. Because now I'm going to come over down here and I'm going to make it a 3. And so now we get to see, did we internalize this idea about the 2 things couldn't be close together, because now the only way I'm fitting 3 in is to make it exactly like this. My idea is to use this to point up this column. So that's going to force all of that. Painting those green. And we can reiterate now sort of version of this with a 1 if we want, and have a 1 pointing up here to avoid a dead end there. Oh, no, sorry, a 2. It would be a 2 pointing up here is what it would be to avoid the dead end. Of course, that might be nice. I like to have the theme, but then I was worried I'm repeating myself a little bit too much if I go about doing that in that fashion. Let's see. So the thing I'm contemplating, we'll just try it, and we'll see if it does something nice, and if it doesn't do anything nice, then we'll unwind it. What I'm talking about doing is that, which will give us the opportunity to say, okay, well, I'm not shading that one, so it's this one that I'm shading. So this one's unshaded, and that's going to drag the line like this through there. Oh, no, I do like that, because that forces this to be shaded. Because this has become a dead end in a way that we have not yet encountered in this puzzle. So now, naturally, the thing to do is to have an arrow that points at that cell that we've now shaded to reward that, like one from over here, for example. This would be sort of the maximum version. Have a 1 that points at it. We'll see if this works. This might lead to problems with making our puzzle unique. Make all of that green. Of course, makes these lines poke out here. Like that. And now this line in particular has to connect over there. This line certainly extends this way. Oh, this is a corner now, so this has to come this way. I have to look for good opportunities to make use of corners in loop puzzles. Yeah, I bet if I put a 2 clue pointing this way, that will do a lot. Because the thing we know about the 2 clue is we can't shade both of those. So we have to shade this one, which is then going to, well, it forces that down there for 1. It creates a corner here, which extends over there, like that. It also makes it so my loop never goes between these 2 cells, whichever one it is that actually happens to be shaded. Okay, let me just see if I put a clue here, if it works. We can maybe figure out what the clue is at a later date and time. So that forces that to go there for sure. I mean, this cell is just never shaded, is the thing. If this cell is shaded, it's maybe not the most intuitive pattern for you to see in the universe. But if this cell is shaded, then we create a T-junction here. This cell sort of breaks. And I think that's a common enough pattern. I think it's hard to see, but I think it's probably worth letting that be a step if this works out, to say that this cell can't be shaded. So we'll try that. We'll see. Maybe it'll turn out to be a little too horrible. But that would force that, which forces that, which then forces that. we again know one of these two is shaded, and now it can't be that one because that creates a dead end. So now it's this one. Oops. That's shaded, which pulls that there. And now this has to come down like that. And now I think if I... Oh, I can't make this shaded. This has to be green. Oh, this is this has to go over here. This can't connect. Oops. Has to connect this way. But I think now there's two solutions, which are that one and that one. So that's not quite going to work. So sadly, that being clued doesn't work. What about this cell being clued? If that cell is clued, this definitely goes that way. This cell's never shaded because of the same T reason, right? Yeah, this is still never shaded. But I could shade... Well, I can't shade this one, actually. So if I make this a 1, which is the only thing sort of it really could be, then the one of these two that's shaded, again, can't be this one. So it would have to be that one. I'm not promising that this works. This is a corner. Does connect like that. That makes that a corner. Now this again... No one of these two is shaded. Yeah, it can't be this one. So it's that one that ends up shaded. Which forces... Nope, that forces a mini loop. And another mini loop. And another shaded cell. That's unfortunate. Okay, what if instead... Yeah, we just can't even put a clue here. Unfortunately. Yeah, we sadly might be boned on this. We might have to go back a ways. Like maybe to that piece. Where we put in that 2 there. Okay, let's experiment with the idea of a clue here. So if I do that, it does force that under there. Which then forces this cell to not be empty. Because again, both of these would be empty at once, which fits with the logical theme. So we'd get that. This end would be forced to go up there. This end would come over here. pretty natural clue here, I think, would be a 1 up. Should force that to be shaded, this to be unshaded. Oh, nope, that doesn't work. That creates a, oops. That creates a mini loop out of this. Could be a 0 up. That might work. Kind of hate a 0 up clue because it's fills in stuff early that might break some of the earlier deductions that we made. But we could certainly instead stick a clue here. See if we can make this all work out in some way, shape, or form. So now I think if I make this a 1 pointing this way, I think we know which one it is. Either that or it's broken, one of those. Can't be that one because that one creates a dead end. So that one would be green. It can't be this one because that one creates a T intersection. We don't want to do that either. So it would be this one that was shaded. Oops. Sorry. So it can't be that one. That one's green. So this would be the one that would be shaded. Now, we hope that if I put a 1 over here, we know I certainly can't shade this one because it would create a dead end. So I'd have to shade this one. And no, that again creates the closed loop of doom that we were trying to avoid. This one, if I make it a 0, it's not a big deal because I haven't used the thing down here. So I could try making this a 0. Let's try that. Not a 9. About a 0. So that would make both of these green. The only downside is it looks like you're supposed to think about that early in the puzzle when you're not. Okay, this would have to go this way. And again, we're forced to create a closed loop. It's possible I've made this all just a bit too claustrophobic. Maybe a 1 pointing this way. And this is, by the way, I should say, this is very typical of the sort of end of a puzzle that you're making for a pencil puzzle. Is often you're sort of looking for, okay, what's the thing that makes this resolve nicely? Okay, so it's now has to be that one that's shaded, because if this is unshaded, we now pretty cleanly get the thing that we don't want to get. Okay, and if I make this also a 1. Definitely not that one. This is going to be too open, isn't it? I think this is going to have multiple solutions again. See, I think both of those are fun. Make it a 0. Any chance this works out? I notice it does pull this down here. These can connect, unfortunately. That was true. That was true still. It was it was that part that was problematic. Okay, so claiming I couldn't make this the one shaded one? Yeah, because if this were green, it would go badly. I made this a 2. It's of course quite a potent clue, not a 12. But one gets those every now and again. This would both be black. We would assuredly have to come down here. I hadn't really intended this to go with the 0. This would end up over there. And it would go with a 0. But again, I think we have multiple solutions. Yeah, there's a couple ways to disentangle these two loops. Okay, let's go back a ways. It's a little annoying that the problem and the solution end up so out of sync, but I think I want to at least get rid of that 1, because that 1 certainly gave me all of that. And that gives me a lot more room if I don't use that 1. Like, even tempted to put a clue like slightly closer to it to use the 1. Or I could even just actually just put a clue here, and then that uses this black without even it needing to be a clue. I think that's a good idea. We'll try that. So that's going to force that there, that there, that there. Now, of course, what I would really like is to force these two to tie together. Maybe another clue here. Pull that across there, pull this down here, pull that down there. Just regardless of how anything else goes. It would make this cell for sure green because it would again create one of these sort of like pairs where either these are both out or they're both in. And so it creates that sort of pattern that we like. This line comes across here. Oh, this is actually great. I hadn't really appreciated this. Can't close because if this closes, that's actually a whole loop. So actually, oops. Actually, this does come across like that. Let's see if this is a. No way that can be a 2, is there? See, we can try the 1 here again. Pointing left, that did some interesting things last time. Can do things like this cell can't be shaded. I guess, yeah, that makes a 1 down here interesting, because if this cell was shaded, we just create a dead end that we're not allowed to create. So it's very in theme to put a 1 down here and then use the fact that this cell can't be shaded, so that must mean this cell is shaded. Of course, that one is not. Does force this line down here, over here. These get pushed out. These still can't join. Oops. Because they're still ends of the same mega loop, if you will. True that neither of these can be shaded for sort of awkward, weird reasons. I think it is true. I was contemplating if I could get away with making this 2 or whatnot, but I don't. No, it's the wrong parity. There's this like weird loop parity thing where sort of like I either need it's either fixed that I'm using an even or an odd number of these 3 cells, but the answer is an odd number of them are green because I could connect this by doing that. So an even number of them are black, which could include 0, although 0 won't get me there. But the problem is that if I'm making an even number of them black, this is never black. And so I'm either making both of these black or neither of these black. I don't have a great way of cluing them at the moment without adding an additional clue square. If these were just both black, that would work well, right? Or I guess if I just put a 1 here pointing up, right? It works. Oops. Probably somewhat ruins assorted other logic, and it does sort of render this cell somewhat unnecessary because it's not going to clue anything that's not clued elsewhere. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe what I instead want is a clue from this cell pointing down. I think a 0 from this cell, I think, pointing down, I think does it. So now that's certainly green. Oh no, that's just broken. I guess a 1 here ought to do it. And it's not at all completely trite because the reason we know this isn't the 1 is because of the avoiding the big loop closing. So I think that's actually still legitimate as a thing. The only thing is we have this clue here. Now, if you do look at the rules, we are allowed to have question marks. So we can just make this a question mark. It is a legitimate thing to have in the world. Oh, by the way, I should go back and actually fix this up so that it tidies. Oh, and this one should be in. Oops. Which cell was that? It's that one. Okay, yeah. And we should get rid of the black, black, green in here and make that a black, black, green in here so that when we export this, it'll actually look right. And we are promising a question mark and a light gray over here. Okay, let's try this in Sudoku Pad, see how this feels, see if this has become too trite, because we have added a bunch of clues. Like this is a very heavily clued Yajilin, although part of that is just to avoid anything weird about loops, because there's a lot of advanced loop logic that we're specifically trying to avoid here. Okay, so let's do the Penpa converter. Yeah. Okay, so here is our Yajilin puzzle. Okay, so we know these are both safe. Because of this observation that if either of them were broken, they would both be broken. So we can draw some loop over here. Loop extends down here. Likewise, around this corner, if this was broken, we'd sort of create a dead end. So we have to actually enter all of these cells. So all of those are loop. And we can't create our dead end here either, so we need to spread the mines like that. This comes here. It becomes green. Oops, green. We've got a 1 in this row, so it's there that we're referring to. Here. Now, this is also green and is a corridor, so we go through like that. Continue that. Continue this up here because it's got to go somewhere. This is a corridor. We repeat this shape here where those need to be green. It's the same shape that we started with over there. Those are green. That can't be the shaded one or I create a dead end, so this is the shaded one. This 3 is now just the only 3 cells it points out that could possibly be yellow. We get some greens next to yellows, including this corner and this corridor and this corner. Oh, this has become forced to do that. This is actually forced to go that way and that way because of loopy rules. This was always going to be yellow because of its positioning relative to that. If you want, you could even see that as the first step of the puzzle. Oh, my belief that this being the yellow one was going to be non-trivial was based on the fact that it came from over here, was optimistic, sadly. It's come from the other side, but that's potentially okay. I'm certainly not making this the yellow one because, again, that would create a dead end. So this is the yellow one. It's all of that over there. Did that over there like that. Oops. And again, I like that the theme here seems to be hit pretty strongly about not creating dead ends. Okay, this 3 is forced. Which is going to create that. That is going to be a dead end, so that's not. Which makes this a corridor. Okay, and we are now at risk of closing our mega loop here, so we have to now practice some mega loop avoidance. Still avoiding it connects that there. We've now got our little loop circuit again because we can't make both of those black. And if I make this shaded, I assuredly create a mini loop, which is which is actually a nice sort of workaround to the T thing if you want to avoid avoiding T's. That is a fine way to do it. So now we get this here and here. And this here, and the only way that actually works is that way. Woohoo! Okay, that works. Okay, so let's Yajilin editor for PuzzLink. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining me on our journey to make this little Yajilin puzzle. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying this little mini-series of zetamath setting pencil puzzles. I set 4 more on stream, so I've now set 7 total. So if you're enjoying this series, good news. There's going to be more of them. If you're interested in any particular genres or any particular things you'd be interested in seeing me set, by all means, leave a comment below. I'd be thrilled to hear suggestions of things that you think would be neat or fun. But that's going to be all for today's video. So thank you, everyone, for watching. If you do enjoy the content, do please like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, And if you want to contribute monetarily to our zetamath empire, we greatly appreciate everyone who does so. You can also always click the join button down below, and it'll give you a variety of options for how you can support us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.